What's your thoughts nowadays on everybody having like their own side hustle? So everyone seems to want to be an entrepreneur. It seems really fashionable. Everybody seems to want to go into this space. How can you tell people that are actually serious about it and those that are simply just chatting shit and not being genuine and just sort of like, oh yeah, I dabble a little bit, I do this, but in their bio it says CEO of a cleaning company. Like, how do you see through a lot of that?
And another bit, just before you answer, Raj, that I'd love to get your take on is this whole world of fake gurus now. Now, look, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I'm not saying that he's one of them, but people like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, all these people who are selling loads of shit online, Forex, courses, for everything. But really, it's just all upsells and bullshit. And I'd love to get your take on that as well.
Okay, so the first question was, what was the first question?
Entrepreneurship. How come it's so fashionable nowadays?
Right, okay, so let me go with that one first, then we'll come back to Grant and Ty and those guys. So the whole job industrial complex, the whole employment industrial complex is a very industrial revolution, post-industrial revolution thing. Go to the factory, clock in, clock out, have a job title, have a job description. In the grand scheme of humanity, people have only been inside a job structure for, and I don't know, I'm no anthropologist, but like, a couple of 100 years. Prior to that, people used to manage their own vegetable patches. And some people would raise animals and others would grow fruits and other ones would lay concrete, right? So the idea of having a quote unquote side hustle or something that you can directly exchange is not actually that different a concept. I compare it to when people say, oh, this apple is organic. Well, a normal apple is supposed to be organic. We shouldn't label this one organic. What we should say is this apple is a pesticide apple and an apple is meant to be organic.
An apple. Yeah.
Right. So I see the same with entrepreneurship. I'm glad that people are now recognizing that if they've got an ability that they can directly sell to a consumer through the internet or otherwise, and then the consumer can directly compensate them, that now that connective tissue exists through Stripe and PayPal and Fiverr and Upwork and all those things. So, I'm very pro it. And I think it's a great thing. And I think that we were only temporarily so obsessed with jobs over the last kind of like 80 to 120 years. But after that, it's been, we're kind of, it's a correction. We're going back to the fact that if you have got a skill, you should directly go to market with it. With regards to Ty and Grant, I've been in rooms with all these guys. I've shook hands with all these dudes. I've been backstage. I've heard all different types of conversations had about what's going to be said on stage before folks go up and when they come off stage, how they debrief amongst each other. I won't mention any individual names, but it's not just Ty and Grant at these events. It's
absolutely
the D list and the E list and the Z list version of all of them. What do I think about it? Look, at the end of the day, pre-COVID, you could be walking through Times Square and you'd see a guy with 3 cups upside down, and underneath one of the cups is a ping pong ball. And then there'll be the most beautiful girl who comes over and says, hey, have you seen this guy? And you go, no, what's going on? Yeah. And they pull you over, right? So it's not different than just being hustled on the street. Now, some of this stuff is undeniable. Like, if guys are jumping out of private planes, at the very least, they've got enough money to rent a private plane. If not, fly it. And I know Grant and I know Ryan and all these guys, and they are actually like living that life. So, that's one thing to be said. For everybody else, it's about being afraid of heights, guys. People get to a certain level in their careers, and then they think to themselves, okay, I'm a 4 out of 10, which means I know better than other people that are a 3 out of 10, a 2 out of 10, a 1 out of 10. Do I want to now take this high road and go from being a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to a 7 to an 8, which gets double harder each time you go up a rung? Or do I want to turn around and just sell to the 2, 3s and 1s?
Holy shit, I never thought of it that way.
And that's what most of these cats are doing. They're talking a big game and then leaving the venue, eating the free food in the buffet, jumping in the back of a Ford Fiesta and going and staying in a 3-star hotel. And they've got their rags to riches story. They've got their Phoenix story. This family member had cancer. I realized I couldn't pay for them. I had this accident, this person left me, I hit my bottom. You can Google a hero's journey and you'll see the same 5 to 8 stage process that they all go through. It is a scam, but humans are going to scam. I mean, there's 7 billion people. If you were to walk around the planet, country to country, continent to continent, town to town, city to city, one of those 7 billion people is going to try and take advantage of you. And
but
so,
how do you see through that? Because in order to not safeguard people, I'm not on a righteous journey here, but how do you see through that as a person who, say, if I'm coming into this world and I haven't been on stage with these guys or been in the venues with them or seen how they act, how do you see through it? Or what's the telltale signs?
what I like about the fact is that if you are skeptical about it, you should always do an opposite zoom. So whoever you feel, you know, we've got instincts, right? And people that haven't got instincts get eaten. So if you're a wildebeest who can stand next to a lion and you're like, I don't really trust this guy, then you might have a chance of like not being eaten by that lion. But if you're a wildebeest that stands by a lion and goes, hey there, little lion, and then the lion eats you, well, that was kind of your future as a wildebeest. That's kind of your destiny. So the way I would take this into something practical for people, how does one recognize that is, yo, man, like if your instinct feels like something's too good to be true, if every single time someone goes on stage, they're selling you something that ends in a 7. So it's like
Pitch
this
Fest.
Program's 497, 797, 997.
NLP, buy now.
Right. So if you've been blessed with the level of intelligence, and it doesn't need to be high, where you can pick up on that as a signal and go, hang on a second, then the next thing I think you should do is just type that person's name or that program into Google and just write the word scam or con after it. And then go down that rabbit hole and see what it tells you. And you might find that there's 2 or 3 people that swear it's a scam and there's 97 people that swear it's not. And then you can just use your free judgment. But look, dude, the reason why these scams have been distilled the same way that the guy in New York is doing the thing with the ping pong balls.
Yeah.
He's doing the same thing that his uncle was doing and that his granddad was doing. Some of these things are so refined. They're actually meant to circumvent part of the human psychology and get into somebody's.
So think about it at that level of depth.
So let me come in here,
It's meant to make them want to gamble, and it's meant to trigger the greed in them.
Yeah.
And that's just a skill that people have. I don't know if there's a way that we can mass baptize the public to be like, be careful, you're going to get conned. Again, now and again, you got to touch the oven door to know that it's hot.
Yeah, and I'm going to come in here, Raj. So I was at the National Achievers Congress, organized by Success Resources 2019. So Grant and Gary, you know, they were headlining, they had Russell Brand. Great. It was a pitch fest. Okay, now I've been in personal development probably 5 to 7 years. I've been down plenty of people's funnels. Some have great value and some are just absolute bullshit. You know, you sit in a room and this is supposed to be like a retreat and it's supposed to give you loads and loads of value and they're telling you things you can find in Napoleon Hill's book or whatever. But Indy, like, I don't know if you've been to many of these events, like people literally run to the back of rooms with credit cards, you know, with these call to actions and like you said,
Seriously?
NLP, then the 1997, like, and I used to be that guy.
Tell me about the 7 thing. I don't understand it. I don't think a lot of people do.
So, and this is the point I was going to actually, I'll come on to the 7 thing, but the science of how you sell, right? So I've been in like masterminds where it's like, okay, this is how you do stacked offers. This is how you irresistible offers. This is the price point you need to do. This is the discount you're going to do. Like there's so much in how you sell because they call it like basically pre-close, and you actually close. But most people, they try and sell and close at the same time. You should always be selling, but you close once. Like there's so much to this where, I mean, one of my sales trainers, he has like a 7-day program, which is just about what we're talking about. The whole 7 thing you're talking about, Indy, is there's this thing within the industry, personal development industry, that ending in a 7 sells better than say ending in a 9, for example. So 199 versus 1997 sells better. That's the science. But the thing is, it's so common now that when people see it, so I think, Panorama did that thing about Samuel Leeds, the property guy. He had this thing about, it's worth watching, man. I mean, in all industries, like, property is one of them and all these things. There are some people doing these things and it's just, because it's an unregulated industry, right? So you're just selling essentially advice. This is where the issue comes in because there are some people add massive amounts of value, some people, right? And there's other people who just give me some really high level chunked up stuff that it's just, there's nothing there, but the volume that they're doing on. And I agree, Raj, what you said about the guy in the balls, but it's the scale at which that's happening versus, these guys who are doing it. There's a couple of cool guys on YouTube who basically just call these people out and they expose them and they try and get them to interview them live.
Like Mike Winnett, right? Mike Winnett from
Mike
Warrington.
Winnett, that's it, Entrepreneur Formula. So he was there. He was at NAC actually. He was calling people out.
I'll keep my. There's nobody. There's very few people that are in the game or that are hustling that I don't know or know of or haven't communicated with or haven't been in rooms with. I just don't participate myself, because I was hot in the streets before all this shit happened, and
right.
Indy's brother can tell you that.
Speaking of which, Raj,
I've got so much more to lose if I go out and I start popping.
He does. Yeah.
Because the streets have had my back for a long time. People would walk out of a bar that they were in and come to mine and pay money to come in on the strength. So we're talking 20 years ago, but that is part of my firmware now. It's just to keep it real with motherfuckers. You know what I mean?